Yes, sir.
Welcome to the Constellation Center for Excellence as part of the awesome Johnson Controls Hall of Fame Village campus here in Canton, Ohio. My name is Jake Ray, and we have our special guest with us today, Mr. John Regas, who's going to be a part of this week's Before the Snap series. If you have never tuned into Before the Snap before, and this is your first time, you're going to learn a lot about what it takes to have a career in and around the NFL. And today, we're lucky enough to be joined by some great friends and great partners of ours here in Canton, Ohio, between the Hall of Fame and Johnson Controls Hall of Fame Village. If you have seen the program before, you know what you're in store for. Another excellent program learning about careers in and around the NFL. Again, my name is Jake Ray. I'm the Youth and Education Manager at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Before we dive into our special guest and hear all the great things he has to say today, a little bit about what the Pro Football Hall of Fame believes in. Our mission is to honor the heroes of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. And those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, honesty, all of which make our Hall of Famers great football players, but it makes them great men, great fathers, brothers, sons. It made them great members of the community and truly can make you a great member of whatever organization you end up working for once you're collegiate, high school, wherever you're at in your journey when you get to your professional career, whenever you reach that goal. Before we do get started and introduce our special guest here today, a few thank yous I'd like to pass out. First and foremost, John, thank you so much for being a part of the program. We know that, we look at the NFL season and we just think, it's 18 weeks. You look at us here in Canton, we just work 1 week in August. It's so much more than that. So thanks for giving up some of your time to be part of the program today.
Thanks for asking me. I'm happy to be here.
Secondly, all of our educators, professors, teachers who shared this program out with their students or are watching us 6 months from now. Thank you so much for just allowing us to be such a small part of your students' learning experience. And then lastly, students, as always, this program is meant for you. This isn't meant for myself, Nathan, or Jerry to ask a bunch of questions. Oh, we've got them prepared and we're ready. It's meant for you to start to grow your network, build your network, and learn a little bit about what it takes to have a career in and around the NFL. So as always, be the first. Let us know your name, what school you're watching from. Ask us your question. If you don't have a question, that's okay. Still let us know where you're watching from. But more importantly, we want to see those questions pop in. Nathan's back in the studio, watching the YouTube stream, waiting for all those questions to roll in. So get them in. Make sure you're the first. And we cannot wait to see all the great questions that we have from our students today. So without further ado, lucky and grateful to be joined by our special guest today, Mr. John Regas, and give you a little background about where John came from, where he's at here today. Been with the Hall of Fame Resort and Entertainment Company since the very beginning as one of his first employees. Joined Hall of Fame Village, powered by Johnson Controls, in June of 2017, shortly after the Village signed its original partnership with Johnson Controls. Managed a critical relationship while also undertaking numerous other responsibilities centered around alliance partnerships and strategic brand marketing. He's a Stark County guy, just like myself, born and raised here in Stark County, and had many journeys throughout his tenure until he ended up back here in Canton. Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium, which is, if I can think about it, it's right out here behind us. Played his high school and college football games in there. Prior to joining the Hoff Recco, Mr. Regas served as Director of Athletics in Franklin, Indiana. From 2008 to 2013, he was a sports marketing executive of Gator Sports Marketing, IMG College at the University of Florida. Malone graduate, OU graduate, got his master's down there at Ohio University. And even teaches courses as an adjunct professor. So this guy has done it all, seen so many different avenues in the field of sports. So John, we're lucky to have you here as a part of the program.
No, thanks again for having me. And this is such a great, I think back to my time when I was trying to learn how to get into this industry. And, if something like this were available, then I certainly would have been interested in learning this kind of stuff when I was a little bit younger. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So we always start the program off the same way. And like I always joke, I host, I get to be the first one to ask a question. You hear that your title, you're overseeing some marketing, some sponsorships, some partnerships, but what does the day-to-day life look for you in your career right now?
Yeah, so we're on a journey. We're still in the infancy stages, really, but we're in the development. For those of you who don't know, so you have the Pro Football Hall of Fame Museum, which has been here for 50 plus years, and is a really well known destination. But now we're creating something around the Pro Football Hall of Fame that's really special for Northeast Ohio and this region of the country, with truly, something that's going to generate a lot of interest and buzz and jobs and economic impact in our community. But we are bringing in a true destination around the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So a water park, a hotel, a sports complex, the Center for Excellence, the Constellation Center for Excellence, which we're actually sitting in right now, which is a great retail and research building. The Center for Performance, which is an indoor sports complex, essentially. All these things are coming online, and it's really, really fun, really exciting to be here. So I get to be a part of the team that we then take those opportunities and we leverage them to different sponsors and partners. A sponsorship is when someone just gives you money and it helps your event basically be possible, right? But a partner is when someone is actually, it's mutually beneficial for both people, both groups that are in that partnership. So we like to think of them as partnerships where someone is using our assets to leverage their brand, right? And then we're taking the funds to do that, and it's helping our business grow and helping our business continue to construct and build really cool things here at this destination. So that is my day-to-day duty is how do we leverage those partnerships? How do we leverage the construction of this development and this destination to generate revenue, to create excitement, to market our great destination that's being built here, work with our partners at the Pro Football Hall of Fame to create increased visitation for the museum, and so that's kind of a big part of my job. I also then work in the brand strategy and execution area. So when a new building comes online, developing the logo, when a new event is created, developing the identity for that event, working with our social marketing and digital teams to, implement our brand and how we want the brand to be expressed in different applications, whether that be signs or graphics or videos, all those kind of things. So we have a really, really awesome, talented marketing team that I get to work with every day in that respect too. So those are kind of my two worlds that I work in every single day, and it's a lot of fun.
Now, I believe, you talk about all these big things and it's awesome to talk about it, but we want to go a step further. Now, we don't have what the final product looks like, but we have a pretty cool aerial view of what is all going on right now here in Canton, Ohio. So Nathan's going to go ahead and share his screen, and we're going to show everybody here just a quick video and overview of all the great things going on here at Johnson Controls Hall of Fame Village.
Yeah, and I'll kind of narrate as the video plays. Go ahead and play that. On the left-hand side, the definition of what it's showing. Yeah, so that was a look basically from the what would be the north side of our campus to the south side of our campus. And you can see, right, tons of dirt, tons of construction going on right now, all those different areas. And again, if you're interested in learning more about our destination and what's coming here in Canton, just log into HOF Village, like Hall of Fame, hofvillage.com. And you can watch more videos like that and learn more about the destination.
So we saw, got the overview, saw the video. So let's go live. Let's go live outside right now. Jerry's outside now. It is a little chilly here in Ohio today. So Jerry's bearing the elements out there. He's going to talk a little bit about where he's standing and all the great things that are going on. And I think he's got a question coming back to you. So Jerry, go ahead and take it away.
All right. I can't hear you guys out there, but most importantly, you guys can hear me. So I want to thank all the students that are connecting in from all across the country. I've seen some questions already come in from Georgia and from Pennsylvania. So keep those questions coming. Make sure to put your college, university in there. Shout out for your college there. And let's get a question asked. You can see construction behind me. You can hear the noise. A lot of excitement. Directly behind me is what you see is our fan engagement zone as part of the village. So as John already alluded to, there's the Center for Excellence. There's the Center for Performance. There's our outdoor athletic fields. There's the indoor. I mean, just fan engagement zone, all kinds of water park. I've got 3 boys that are very excited about that. So there's all kinds of stuff going on here. But John, I just want to ask you a question. Actually, 2 questions. First of all, being from this area and going, being a Malone grad that's literally 5 minutes away, you know, what does it mean to be able to have an impact on this community, you know, and being at the forefront of that? But then a second part is a follow-up to that, knowing all the jobs that it's going to create here. So what kind of jobs would be available especially for people that are watching this program here today?
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. Great question. And appreciate the live look in at our fan engagement zone. That's pretty cool. You know, it is exciting as a local person, you know, growing up in this community and, you know, having played my high school and college football games there in the stadium. I even got married on a piece of turf from Fawcett Stadium, the old stadium. So it's very personal to me, everything that's going on here for sure. And you're right, Jerry, it's going to create lots and lots and lots of jobs. And listen, that's how you lift up a community. That's how you create economic uplift in a community, is by giving people the opportunity to work and make money. And then that money gets reinvested back into the community. And so it's really exciting. I mean, when you think about the types of jobs, and we have lots of universities and colleges in our area, which is great, that can really help us feed in, but they can come from anywhere. And we're hiring people right now from all over the country. So it really doesn't matter exactly where you're from, but if you're talented and you're determined and you're qualified, there's going to be jobs in, you know, hospitality management, hotel, water park, our sports. You know, we bring in camps, clinics, and tournaments all the time that need, you know, help, facilitation, and running. We're going to need people in marketing. We're going to need people in revenue generating areas, sponsorship, finance, legal. So really it spans the gamut. It doesn't matter what area you have or what focus you have. If you want to work in a sports and entertainment sector and area, there's going to be job opportunities for you here in Canton based on all the development that's taking place right now.
Well, I think I got a weekend job as a lifeguard at the water park, so that's what I think I'm going with. But John, thank you very much. Not only is John a you know, an employee here, but he's a very good friend of ours here at the Hall of Fame. Both myself and Jake and Nathan, very close friends. So it's a pleasure to have you on the show here today, John. And so, Jake, I'm going to send it back to you.
Awesome, thanks, Jerry. Thanks for braving the elements out there in the cold for us today. You know, we bring this up usually every program, and I like to, you know, get right into it because it is, you know, important. It's important for me. You know, you look at a career, and the cliche saying is, you never work a day in your life if you love what you do. And I think it's kind of good to parlay off of what Jerry said about being from the area. And, you know, there always is a special connection to what you're doing, especially if you love it. But how does that feel for you being in the community that you grew up in the area you grew up in, you know, coming to work every day, 100 yards from where, you know, you spent a lot of your collegiate life, your high school life. So why do you love what you do, and how special is it to truly be a part of the community that raised you?
Yeah, it is special. And my family and friends remind me of that all the time at gatherings and things like that. You know, they're always asking me about updates on the construction and what's taking place and when is this going to be open and all those things. And I take a lot of pride in, you know, being able to be a part of this, that something that is going to make such a big difference. And I think that's the main thing. You know, we all have to find what it is that, you know, is motivating and driving for us in your careers. And, you know, making an impact and making a difference on people is, you know, for me, that's the big thing. And so, you know, I hope that in some way I've been able to make a difference in, you know, like these 3 guys here that are a part of this podcast or this footage. You know, we're all friends, you know, and we all work together, but we all help each other, you know, in our personal lives too, and things like that. So at the end of the day, for me, I want to walk away and my legacy to be someone who was kind to other people, that helped other people. And if somebody needed something, that I was willing to step up and help them. So that's kind of what I want to be known for. I want to represent my family well in that, make people proud that know me. And so that's kind of what I've rested my head, on the pillow at the end of the night, knowing that I'm trying to do that.
Gotta get the camera work out a little bit. I didn't go back to myself to ask a question. It's just some voice over here asking a question. You talk about impact and the personal impact you wanted to leave. Looking at Johnson Controls Hall of Fame Village as a whole, and we don't need to dive into the nitty gritty details, but at the end of the day, when everything's all said and done and the campus is up and running, what is the overall impact that the campus, the facilities, and even us at the Pro Football Hall of Fame is going to have on this area in Northeast Ohio?
Well, now we've got this great destination, right, where people can come to, which is the museum, right? So that's a wonderful, great thing for Canton, and it's the reason we're all here. It really is, right? And that mission that you talked about. But at the end of the day, people come to the Hall of Fame, and some people will spend 3 or 4 hours there. Some people will spend 7 or 8 hours there. Just depends on how big of a football fan you are. But we really want to turn that 3 or 4 hour visit into a 3 or 4 day visit. We want you to spend time in Canton and learn more about what this community is like, and, have this be a place where families can go. And while your, son, maybe dad and son are off in the, museum for a day, mom and daughter are in the water park, getting to spend time together, and everyone's staying in the hotel, and they're having dinner at the restaurant that's in the Hall of Fame Village. So all those things coming together really. And then, by the way, tomorrow we're going to do a camp or a clinic or a conference in our hotel or in our sports complex. So all those things build on each other. And that's really the cool thing about this as we move forward, that it's these events and these opportunities will build on each other and create not just 3 or 4 hours, but really, how do we get somebody here and have an impact in their life for 3 or 4 days at a time every single year, and repeat that visitation every single year.
It's an exciting time for sure. Like I said, I grew up in Stark County myself. Nathan adjacent to Stark County, Jerry as a Stark County kid as well. And it's so cool. We always joke, if you're from the area, and I'll be honest, took the Hall of Fame for granted growing up. I could probably only count on one hand the number of times I ever visited. And to be honest, I had never been to a game and never been to an enshrinement until I started working at the Hall of Fame. So there's a whole story on that, but folks here, I believe, like I said, took it for granted, and it's not till you see it and you see the growth, that the great impact that not only the Hall of Fame, but the full village can have as well. Nathan's waving his hands over there on the camera, telling me he's got some questions from students tuned in on the YouTube live stream. So I'm gonna throw it back to the Hall of Fame studio with Nathan for some of our student questions.
Yeah, Jake, thank you so much. And John, we're excited to have you on Before the Snap. As a Malone University graduate, I'm excited to have another Malone, I guess you were Malone College, but another Malone guy here on the broadcast with us. So the students have been doing a great job submitting questions so far. And with each of these programs, we never really know the direction their questions are going to lead us. So I'm just going to throw them out there to you, John, and you do your best to answer them as you can. So Dean from Robert Morris University is getting his MBA kind of in supply chain management with the emphasis there. And curious, thinking about sports, thinking about the NFL, what type of skills are needed for, the analytics and the logistics side of working in professional sports?
Well, that's such an interesting question. And from my understanding, that's a very high growing field. I just was speaking with someone at a local university yesterday, and they're launching that particular major at their school. So clearly the job demand has gone up for that particular major here in the last several years. And it's becoming very important. I mean, so much of the decision-making that we make today is based on data, right? And so if you have someone who is trained and smart enough to be able to interpret data and properly use it to make decisions, well, then, I mean, why would you not be interested in hiring that person? So I think really, there's a lot of people out there who can probably crunch numbers and stuff like that. But the critical piece to that, I think, is how do you then interpret that data to make business decisions, strategic business decisions to impact your business in a better way. So really cool area that's growing a lot. And I think there's going to be a ton of opportunity for people like that who are in those fields. I think it's really that, how do you then analyze and interpret the data to give you something that can actually create a positive outcome for the business. So that's where my focus would be, because he's probably already a really super smart guy that can, be a whiz on an Excel spreadsheet, but then what do how are you learning how to interpret that? And I would just try to gain some experience interpreting data and then having it actually follow through and be used in some type of a business setting. And then what's the positive outcome from that? What changed as a result of that analysis that you did?
Yeah, for sure. And I know I don't work in the field, but I can speak based on some other guests that we've had on Before the Snap. So on the YouTube channel, here at the Hall of Fame, go through all the guests. We've had some people that actually work in analytics. They work in marketing and using that data to create positive outcomes for their respective franchises. And Bryce from Georgia College had a similar question. So we'll skip over that because I think we kind of addressed it there. But Kayla from West Georgia is curious, about the live broadcast, audio production. Is that something you guys are utilizing, with the Village? I know here at the Hall of Fame, we have a Hall of Fame productions team. What are the career opportunities there within sports?
Yeah, that is a very great question. And that, Kayla, that's going to be growing a lot. That's going nowhere but up, especially with the amount of short form content that's coming out now today. It's not about making these super elaborate, long produced pieces anymore. It's snackable, bite-sized, 30-second, 60-second, 2-minute videos that people want to just flip through on their phone. People are consuming from their phone more than they're consuming from their computer anymore. And so it's not about the long, well-produced piece. So I would say for anybody who's in that spot, learning how to speak in front of a camera, learning how to edit your own video, learning how to shoot your own video, like being a jack of all trades in that space can really make you very, very valuable, because it's not like you've got to go to journalist, or you're not like you've got to go to be a professional producer. It's shooting, editing, and then putting something together, writing, scripts for people and speaking in front of the camera. Those are all great things to really focus on as you develop out that skill, and there will be lots and lots of demand for positions like that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Jake, I'm going to throw a curveball at you. This question, I think you actually might be better suited to answer than John. So you guys can tag team your response here. This is from Joseph, and you'll like this, Jake, Ashland student. So Joseph's from out in Ashland, and curious, historical research, is that something valuable to the Hall of Fame? Is there careers in sports with more of a historical research background?
Want me to take it?
Yeah.
Well, first off, go Eagles. Okay, good to hear the alma mater represented here today. When it comes to history, you look at just our youth and education team. We have 12 to 14 different presentation topics that schools can choose from if they come on a field trip or do a virtual field trip with either Nathan, Jerry, or myself. So we have to know, we have to do our research to come up with these presentations and update them and put in new stats. Add new presentations to some new and relevant information, and working with, you've seen John Kendall on Before the Snap before, the history guru, Joe Horrigan, who's at the Hall of Fame, the foremost historian in the game of football. It's just picking their brains and, talking to them about, maybe we're doing a presentation on African-American trailblazers and talking about Marion Motley. So going to John or Joe and saying, tell us some stories about Marion Motley that we can insert into our presentations for that next generation. And then, talking about a program like this, Nathan does a great job of doing research on John Regas and looking into his career, or if we're doing a Heart of a Hall of Famer, finding that one piece of information that isn't reported on or lot or doesn't have all these stories. My favorite example is when we do a program with Jack Youngblood. He was at University of Florida when they created Gatorade. And the story is he hated it. So getting them to kind of, have a little fun and do that sort of research is fun, not only for the end program, but, it's fun for myself and Nathan and Jerry to go in and do some research like that. How would, you look at Johnson Controls Hall of Fame Village and having the Hall of Fame right here is that heartbeat, that centerpiece, so much history. How does the Hall of Fame Village utilize that history as well?
Well, so much of what we're doing is all about the future, right? But our tagline is actually honor the past and inspire the future. And so we've got to never forget that. So I'd say you're kind of in a niche market because everyone's not thinking about that. I think most people are thinking about what do I do in the future? But that's kind of a cool story. And one of the things I was going to say to you guys today is, what's your story? You know, we've all got a story. We've all got different backgrounds. What's your individual story that you can tell that makes you unique and different than all the other people who are going to be applying for the positions that you're applying for, graduate school that you're applying for, or whatever it is that you want to do with your career? That's kind of a cool thing. I think I hadn't thought about that, but you know, we're going to need historian type people who can, you know, download information and give us the, you know, the perspective of that when it's needed. So that's kind of cool. And I think we would definitely utilize that.
Yeah, I think that's a great response from both of you guys. Thank you for working together on that. We do have a couple of other student questions, but for now, I'm going to send it back over to you guys, Jake, for some more questions. I continue to encourage the students, you know, keep submitting the questions. We love hearing from you guys. Love making you guys a part of the program. But for now, we're going to go back to Jake.
Awesome. Thanks, Nathan. Thanks for those great questions, students. And I'll echo what Nathan said. Get those in. We want to see as many questions as we can. Want to go back, you know, looking a little bit on your career, John. You mentioned you were a student athlete growing up, played football in college right here in Canton, Ohio. What life lessons did you take away from being a student athlete, and how do you apply them to your life now with your career?
Well, I should have said this from the beginning, but you know, I'm a father. So I'm a husband to my wife, Morgan. I'm a father to 5 children, 4 boys and 1 girl at home. And I think first and foremost, my time as an athlete has taught me a lot about, you know, how to be a part of a team, how to be a part of a family. You know, one of the things that I think, you know, there's the obvious stuff that playing, you know, sports in high school and in college teaches you, which is, you know, toughness and competition and discipline, all those things that are required to be an athlete. But really what it did for me was it got me around other people that weren't really necessarily like me. Believe it or not, just because you play the same sport doesn't mean you have the same views on things, doesn't mean you look the same. And especially on a football team, you got all different shapes and sizes and everything else on a football team. But tell you, the only thing that matters is, can you help us win, right? At the end of the day. And it's cool because you have that shared vision of winning, and you know, everyone can get around that and everyone can be a part of that. But playing in sports for me was an opportunity to be around all those different types of people. And I guess just, you know, when I think back to it, it's like, wow, what a great opportunity that was for me to get to, you know, learn what other people are like and learn how to work with other people. My roommate, one of the years in college was an African-American. I'd never really spent much time around African-Americans, just honestly growing up and in the community that I grew up. What a great opportunity for me to learn and to get to experience that. And we're still friends to this day. You know, I wouldn't have that friendship if football wasn't a part of my life, if track wasn't a part of my life in college. So I just think about, you know, and then like in track and field, I was also on a team of females, right? So football was all males, but then track and field, I was with, you know, we had males and females on the team. So that was different, you know, it just, those experiences giving you the opportunity to just learn how to work with people and appreciate people's different perspectives and stuff like that. I would say is probably, you know, beyond the obvious stuff of just hard work and dedication and discipline. That's probably my favorite part.
I stole my next question about what does football teach. So we'll dive in and jump up a little more. You know, you graduate college, got to find a job. You know, after your college career here in Canton ended, what was that next step for you? Were you right into the work field? You know, I know the story of how you kind of got to some of the careers you were in, but can you tell everybody kind of what that next step was for you?
Yeah, I thought, you know, after I was getting ready to graduate from Malone and which is a 4-year private school right here in Stark County. And I was trying to figure out, you know, what's going to give me the opportunity to get to do the things that I want to do in my career. And I felt like the advice that I was getting and the research that I was doing, that graduate school was really the best thing to help me. Sports is so different than any other field. It's not like becoming a teacher or becoming a doctor or any of those kind of like step by step by step. Sports is really different, and you've got to have connections. You've got to know people. And I worked my tail end off in Malone. I volunteered, did tons of internships, all that kind of stuff. In fact, I interned at the Pro Football Hall of Fame when I was an undergraduate student, and I was coming to the tail end of that, and I applied for grad school, and I tried. I was a good student, and I was double major, and I was a two-sport athlete, and I had all those things going for me. I was a team captain, all the good stuff that you would hope for. But it was tough. It was tough to get into because it was just really, really competitive. I was trying to get into Ohio University, which is the #1 sports administration program in the entire world. And it was a struggle. I mean, it was really, really hard. And they were, I was competing against the best in the world. And I think finally they just let me in because I wouldn't quit. Like, I just kept driving down there, and I just kept bothering them and sending them letters and calling them and emailing them. And I think they were finally just like, hey, let's just let this guy in so like we can, keep doing our job. Like, this guy will not leave us alone. So they finally let me into the program. And that was, a big deal for me. Getting accepted into that program is I'm a big goal person, and that was my goal. And the day that they called and told me I was getting in was a really, really fun day.
So, you get to grad school, that's something that I didn't do. It's something that Nathan, we were both kind of looking at it, but eventually came back to working full time in sports. So you get out of grad school, head south. Talk a little bit about your journey down there to working for the Gators in Florida.
Yeah, this is a crazy story, and I encourage anybody with this story. It's really neat. So I can only say that there was just more factors at play than myself in this, but I really believe that, I'm supposed to do whatever I can do. God expects out of me to do my very best in every situation. And so this is where I was graduating at the end, in a couple months from graduate school. I was going to have my master's in business administration, my master's in sports administration. I had done an internship. I've got all this experience leading up. I was a grad assistant. So here I am trying to find a job. And really, when you go to OU, they give you this book, which is all the people who graduated from the program. You can contact any of those people anytime, and they will definitely help you. I've seen that time and time again. And so I gave the book to my wife, and I said, hey, where do you want to live? Take a look through this thing and just see some of the people and where they live and different places. So we had a spring break week, and I'll tell you, all I really wanted to do during spring break was go to sleep because I hadn't slept very much in the last couple of years. Graduate school was a grind. It was really, really tough. One of the hardest things I've ever done. But I couldn't. I knew I couldn't. I couldn't just sit back and let it happen. So I had to go out and do something. And so my wife and I got in our little Saturn Ion car, and we just started driving. I reached out to all these different schools. At the time, I wanted to work in college athletics. That was my goal. And so we reached out to all these different professionals and schools and all these different places, whether it be Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. So we just made our way south and stopped at all those places. And I just asked those people one simple question. I first of all thanked them very much for taking time to talk to me. And then I just said, do you have any advice for me about getting a job in sports? And that was the only question I asked. Now, that question did two things. That opened the door for me to get some advice from them, but it also made them aware that I was looking for a job, right? So people were great. They were so kind to me. They spent time with me. They answered my questions, and we just kept moving along until we got to the University of Florida, which is about 1,000 miles away from where we started. And I didn't know anybody when I walked in. And again, the Ohio U connections were there. I'd set up meetings ahead of time with people, and all these people were great. I remember meeting with one person specifically. I hope she hears this one day. It's Monica LeBron. And she was at the University of Florida. And I said, Monica, can you introduce me after we talked, to Jeremy Foley, the athletic director? He was also an OU alum, but because of his schedule and everything, he didn't respond to my inquiry. And so she's like, let's give it a try. We can only try. So we went up to his office. Of course, she was able to get us in deep into the, administrative assistants and everything. And they're like, yeah, he's got 5 minutes, just pop in there. And she kind of pushed me in the room and let me go. And I met with him for 5 minutes, and he just kind of looked at me and gave me that sideways look. And he goes, I don't know why, but I like you. Walk with me. He walks me to someone else's office, throws me in that room and says, I want you to talk to this person. Mike, I want you to talk to this person. He's talking to his number 2 guy. And he goes, I like him. And then he just closes the door. And then I introduced myself to Mike, and Mike became my boss for the next 5 years. So just that moment of going and meeting and talking. And I had made business cards on Vistaprint, and I had gone to Staples and bought some nice paper and printed my resume off at, Kinko's or something, or FedEx office. And that was all I had. And I had my clothes in the car, and myself, and I just kind of went in and I just asked the same questions. And the next thing I knew that, that was the place that I was going to work for the next 5 years. And such is the story. So, and then we drove home.
It's a cool story. You hear in that story alone, the hard work you talked about, the dedication to your craft that you learned from the game. Then you get into those things that they teach you in college, the networking, and how important it is that you do know people and how that opens doors. And, the importance of asking questions, everything that we've talked about that makes our students today great students, and it's going to lead them down that road. You heard it all right there in that small little snippet story that you told.
Yeah. And I think, another kind of principle that comes out of that is probably preparation. That's something I'm really big on. And just being prepared for the moment, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know where I was going to go that day. But, I had sent the emails, I had made the phone calls, I had printed my resume, I had made some fake business cards that had my contact information on them on Vistaprint. I had done all the things that would give me a chance, because you never know when your moment's going to come and when your chance is going to come. And I guess, I'm always of the belief that I'm going to give myself the best chance I can. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay. But I never want to walk away that I wasn't prepared for the opportunity in the moment. I always want to make sure I'm prepared for the moment. And I was that day. And, by God's grace, it all just worked out the way it was supposed to. So it's cool.
Awesome. Well, Nathan, looks like you got some more questions from our students. So I'm going to throw it back to the Hall of Fame studio for some more questions from the students who are tuned in.
Yeah, we do. And first one's coming from Nick at Wake Forest. And Nick says, he actually emailed us with this question and said, as a student with previous experience working in a sports marketing company, Learfield, particularly in ticketing and sales, what are your thoughts, John, on the best way to get involved in the sports industry with that background that Nick is able to provide?
Well, I think I worked for IMG, who then was acquired by Learfield, so very familiar with that business. And I mean, that business is 2 sides: sales and service. So you're either, and you can live in both. I would encourage you, Nick, to try to get experience in both of those areas because you never know which side is going to resonate more. The opportunities, if you can do both, then the opportunities will continue to, present themselves. And then you're not all just in sales or just in service. So I did both at the University of Florida, and I grew into sales. I started in fulfillment in service, and then I grew into sales as that, as the need for that or the opportunity for that became available. So I would just encourage you to try to get experience on both sides. Whether you start, doesn't really matter which side you start on. Always try to do whatever you can do. Even if, let's say you start off in service, maybe you're just going on sales calls with another seller at Learfield, just to see how they do it and gain that experience. I think that's really, really crucial. So that's how I'd encourage you on that.
Yeah, for sure. Next question comes from Bryce from Georgia College. Bryce actually had a question that was kind of stolen by Dean. So Bryce said, I'm asking another one. So here we go. Would you, the Hall of Fame Village, ever consider adding a sports book? Would the museum ever have a display about sports books? What are your thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, I like Bryce already. Sounds like Bryce is my kind of guy because he got shot down on one and he didn't give up. Because guess what? I got shot down a lot on that Florida trip I was telling you about. There was a lot more shot downs than there were acceptances on that. Yeah, I think there is a possibility for that down the road. The legislation in Ohio is changing like it has changed in other states that we've seen in the past, 4 or 5 years. And so as the legislation changes, the opportunities change, and the possibility for that is certainly a very real thing. Yes.
Okay, so I think the last question we got from our students, and I love that it came in after you told your story about some good old-fashioned networking and your road trip on your spring break. Alexander from the University of Iowa came in and said, how different do you think that would have been? Put yourself as a grad student in 2022, the way social media works, the way LinkedIn works. Do you think it would have been different for you had you lived and been a student in 2022 and not, I'll let you date yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I think it would. I would approach it differently today, and I'm not in that position anymore to sort of, know what the situation is that students are facing today. But I can only speak from what I've seen change over the years. LinkedIn didn't exist, when I made that trip, and then when I was doing all of that, really, maybe it did, but no one knew about it if it did. Today, LinkedIn is such a vital resource. And I would tell every single student who is listening to this call that you've got to have a really, really good LinkedIn profile. That's like table stakes. Every single person should have that. Hands down, that should be one of the most important things you do. It's free. It doesn't cost you any money. It's just, you need to go out and you need to find people who have really good LinkedIn profiles and then copy those. Make yours look very similar to those. Make sure you're completing everything. So much so that I have that as a project in my class for the students that I teach at Malone. I have a LinkedIn checklist for them to do to make sure all of these things are filled in. They have a recommendation. They've highlighted skills that they have. All these different things that are in LinkedIn that people just don't even do. I have that as a project because I think it's so important. So would it be different? 100%. 100% it would be different. I can't tell you exactly how. I know that I would have still reached out to those people if I were doing this today. I'm a little bit old school. I write letters. I call people. I visit people, which is even weirder. But like, we'll have people, we'll post a position. We posted a position last year for a graphic designer, content creator position. And we had 700 people apply for that position in 1 week. So that means 100 applications were coming in a day for one position, right? How many of those people wrote me a letter or emailed me even, right? It's not even that hard to send an email, but just sent an email to say, hi, I applied for this position. Just wanted to let you know, here's my resume. That would make people stand out, right? So it's like whatever you can do to stand out and be different than just I'm going to apply for 1,000 jobs and, my name and my GPA will speak for itself. No, that means nothing. You have to be different. You have to sell yourself. You have to show that you can sell yourself and that you can be different than everybody else and that you're willing to be determined, that you're showing your determination you have to get the job. Those are all things that make you different, I guess. So would it be different? Absolutely. Can't tell you exactly how, but I could tell you that you could do exactly what I did today, and it would still have a positive effect, even if you didn't have LinkedIn, even if you didn't have all those things. If you just contacted people and then did something really, really weird and visited them and sat in front of them, then you would stick out and you would be different than just about everybody out there who's looking for a job.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good piece there as you talk about that, because students constantly ask on this program, how can I stand out? How can I, have a better resume? And how can I interview better? And a lot of the tips and tricks that I think you're alluding to and even, talking about there, they're just good old fashioned, like have a strong resume. Look at other good resumes. Look at other good LinkedIn profiles. Do the weird things where, you're willing to send a letter. You're willing to even send the email. And I think those are things that our students can take away for sure that are watching the program. I have one more question I'm going to ask, and this is kind of from myself and not from our students. As somebody who's in the classroom now, obviously we're a student, you did grad school, now you're teaching, as an adjunct professor, you've got a little bit of experience doing that. For our students that are watching the program, what's something they can do in their day-to-day? They're going to class Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday. How can they stand out? How can they make sure that they're building that network even on campus, so that they're setting themselves up for success long-term?
Yeah, great question. So I've taught about 10 years, and the students that stick out to me the most, Nathan, are the ones that have come up to me and talk to me after class, or set office hours for me to meet with me one-on-one and ask me questions or get advice, or need, if they need help with a project or whatever. If you don't approach me, like, I'm just going to teach the class to you, I'm not going to go out of my way to approach you unless you're struggling with the class or you need something. But like, approach your professors, approach your coaches, your teachers, whoever it is that you can learn from. They got 25, 30 students in a classroom. So they're not going to have time to approach every single one of those people. But the ones that stick out to me are the ones that have come up to me, talk to me, want to spend more time with me. And then even after the semester, hey, it was a pleasure having you as my professor. Here's my resume in case there's ever an opportunity on the road. Or, hey, Professor Regas, I had you 2 years ago. Would you mind looking at my resume now? I get that question all the time. And I say, absolutely, happy to, right? So it's the ones that take the extra step, go the extra mile, and, introduce themselves or build a relationship with me as their teacher. Those are the ones that I remember. And you won't be surprised by this. Those are also students who do very well in the class, right? Those are the ones that take it seriously, show up every day, volunteer, participate, turn in their assignments, all the things you would expect from someone who's really deliberate, planned, and determined to be successful.
Yeah, and all those things that you talked about are easy things to do. I mean, you're in class. It's not that difficult to stop and talk to the professor a little bit there at the end of the class period, or set up a time outside of class that you can get to know them a little bit better. And students are going to find out professors actually enjoy that more times than not. They want to know their students. They want to have those relationships and not just be showing up and lecturing all the time. It makes it more meaningful for them as well. Well, I'm going to throw in one more, Jake. We got another student question at the buzzer, and then you guys just take over, and this will be it for me. So on behalf of the students, first off, John, thank you so much for answering all their questions. Thank you for being a part of the program. Our last student question is from Dean again, Robert Morris student. With the expansion of the Hall of Fame Village, the museum and everything here in Canton, are any remote positions going to be available, or is everything going to require people to relocate?
Yeah, great question. And I want to say thank you too to everybody who's asking those questions. This has been really, really fun. There absolutely already are remote positions, because we have also a media and a gaming division to our company, which are not necessarily tied to Canton, Ohio and the Hall of Fame Village. They're just tied to our relationship and our partnership with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and the content that we can generate out of that, and the opportunities that exist in gaming because of that. So absolutely, there already are positions available in our company, Hall of Fame Resort and Entertainment, that are not a part of that are not located here in Canton, Ohio, and there will continue to be more as we grow.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Like I said, on behalf of the students and myself, John, thanks for being a part of the program. I know Jake's probably got a couple of real tough ones to finish things up with you, though. So thanks again.
Awesome. Thanks, Nathan.
Take it easy on me, okay?
Not so tough. So we've talked a lot about the journey, and there's so many great tips and tricks that you've told the students so far today. But at the end of the day, it's fun to work in sports. You get to do a lot of really, really cool things. So throughout your journey from UF to being athletic director to back here in Canton, has there been a moment that stood out to you as maybe when you're all retired, at the end of the day, you're back in the lazy boy, and you reflect back and you go, man, I can't believe I was a part of this. I know you were in Florida when, that guy named Tim Tebow was down there. So probably a lot of great experience there, plus all the great things, seeing the village grow from its infancy to where it is now. Do you have a favorite moment? that you can't believe you were part of?
No, I don't, because I've got a lot of them. I would say, when I think back, it's probably the events that I've been to. As I got to go to the college football national championship. I've been to the Final Four and the Super Bowl, here as an employee. And those events really, really, are bucket list items for me. To be able to get to do those things was a dream come true. But I'd also say the ones I'll be able to always say that, but the relationships with the players and the coaches, and my colleagues, the people that I'm working with, those are the things that I'm going to remember forever. And I still do. I just talked yesterday to one of the guys I worked with at the University of Florida. He and I talk, every month, usually. And just those relationships I'm never going to forget. But I think, working in sports, yeah, you get the opportunity to work with Billy Donovan and Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow and Joakim Noah. I did all that. But I would say my favorite person I ever met with, and I know you guys have all met with him too, just because I really, really respect who he is as a man more than anything else. I've read all of his books, and I know his story and his life, which is Coach Tony Dungy. When I got to meet with him and sit down and spend some time with him, because you know how this works. Often we're in places where, we've got 30 minutes to kill before we go on stage, or, before we go do an appearance, we're stuck in the airport or we're in the back of a car or something. I got that with Coach Dungy, and I just really respect who he is as a man of faith. And so I got to ask him a lot of questions about that. And also who, he is a husband and a father. He has a big family. So I asked him, I rapid fired every question I could possibly think of in the time I had with him. And that advice that I got from him, I'll never forget. So those are probably the moments and the things that I'll always remember.
Just a couple more questions here. You look at your career, and obviously you've been, all over the East Coast, the Midwest. And, you've seen college athletics. You've been a high school athletics director at a very, very large school, because I've been there. I've seen how big the school is, as well as your time here in Canton. You mentioned being a dad and a husband. How do you find that work-life balance? And how can a student who is going to have to make those decisions down the road here, what is one thing they can do to kind of prepare themselves to start to make that balance?
Yeah. That's a great question. It's a tough question too, because I think everybody who works in sports struggles with that, figuring out like, man, sports is my passion, but now I've got some other passions too, like being a husband and being a father and to my children. Like those are pretty important things, so how do I do this? How do I balance this? And meanwhile, you've got everybody in your ear telling you, you've got the greatest job in the world, and you can never leave that job. And so it's a very conflicting moment when those things come. I would tell you, when I was younger, I tried to be all things to all people. And as I've gotten older, I've learned there are better ways for me to give to others. There's better ways for me to serve others than just to say yes to every single thing that comes my way. I have to be more selective so that I can be great at the things that I'm doing. And the places where I'm serving. So what I would tell you is, and the advice that I've taken from mentors of mine and I've tried to implement, is to be 100% wherever you are. So if I'm at work, I'm 100% at work. I'm trying to do my best in the time I have. I'm not wasting time, looking at YouTube videos or going to Facebook or looking at my phone. I'm engaged in work, and then when I go home, I'm engaged in home. I'm 100% at home with my kids, and they have my attention, and my wife has my full focused attention. So it's a real struggle. It's very hard to do at times. But I would say, starting with that philosophy, to be 100% where you are and doing what you're doing, I think that's the right demeanor to be able to have success in having balance in this world. And you have to know when to say no and to shut it off and be 100% present at home, because that's the easier one. The easier one is to push off things at home and and just continue to keep working and working and working. And I guess as I've gotten older in my career and understood, it's like, man, when I'm at work, I'm going to work my tail end off so that I can get all this done so that I can get back home, and then I can be 100% there. And then I can come in the next day and start it all over again, you know? So that's how I try to look at it. It's a struggle. It's a challenge, something that I'm always trying to do better job of, but that's how I approach it.
All right, my last question. You've had so much good information for students, whether it be just we talked about now, the networking aspect, putting yourself out there, developing relationships. But if there's one thing, it's the only thing that students remember from today. What is the one thing you want the students who are tuned in today, watching this 6 months down the road? What is the one thing you want them to walk away with today?
All right, good question, challenging question, but I'll say this, and I didn't know that one was coming. The best thing I can say to you, if you work in sports or you want to work in sports, you have a desire to be, anywhere in this industry, is that you have to go make it happen. I want you to leave with that today, that your mom and dad aren't going to make it happen. Your professors aren't going to make it happen. Your brothers and sisters, your coaches, they all might help you and they all can help you, but you can't count on that. The only person you can count on is you. That's the only person you can control in that scenario. And all the stuff that happens to you, you control all of that. I would just tell you that, like, if you want to do this, then make some goals and go make it happen. And don't let anybody tell you you can't do it. So that's my encouragement, is if you want to do something, whatever it is, I don't care if it's sports or not, but in sport specifically, you, not anybody else, you have to go make that happen.
All right, with that, that's going to wrap it up for this installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Before the Snap series today, featuring Canton's own Johnson Controls Hall of Fame Village, Mr. John Regas. John, again, thank you so much for being a part of the program today. Thank you for taking time out of your day, driving down the road here a little bit. It's a very, very cool, guys. Constellation Center for Excellence. We got lucky. There's construction going on right outside this door. Thankfully, didn't hear any noise of it today. So very, very lucky. Now, before we leave today, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, follow all of our social media channels, as well as Johnson Controls Hall of Fame Village, to keep up to date with everything we have going on in Canton, Ohio, in all aspects, whether it's history related, football related, or all the great progress going on with Johnson Controls Hall of Fame Village. I know if you're a podcast listener, I know those are big today. Subscribe to the Mission, the Pro Football Hall of Fame podcast, hosted by our great friend Jameer Howerton. Got a lot of great episodes coming out. We kind of get a sneak peek behind closed doors of what's coming out. Got some really good ones. Maya Shaka, the first African-American female NFL official, just released yesterday. Great interview Jameer had with her. So again, like, subscribe, follow, whatever you have to do on all of our social media platforms. If you want to learn more about Before the Snap, we're winding down, only a few more episodes that we'll have this school year. If you want to know if you're going to be tuning in next year, shoot us an email at education@profootballhof.com, and we'll throw you on a mailing list to make sure you're notified as soon as we know, and send out all the information for upcoming programs. Again, it's education@profootballhof.com. Now, we're off next week. Big weekend, Easter weekend. So we're going to take the Friday off, go enjoy it, be with your families and your friends at home. But we'll pick back up on April 22nd. Our great friend Isaac Gittens from the National Football League is going to be joining us to talk about all he does there up at 345 Park in New York, working for Roman Oben and the NFL at the league office. So again, April 22nd, we're going to have Isaac Gittens from the National Football League joining us for our next episode of Before the Snap. We joked off camera, and when we started that, the game of football just doesn't happen 18 weeks throughout the year, or for us here in Canton, Ohio, 1 week in August. There's so much work that goes into it. So much work, as we like to say, before the snap happens during game day. So I hope one thing you learned today is not only all the great information, but how cool it is and how awesome it is to have a career in and around, for us, in and around the game of football, but truly in all of sports. So from myself, from John, Jerry, Nathan, all of our team at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, all the way up to our president, Mr. Jim Porter, thank you so much for tuning in today. And we hope to see you back tuned in for our next program